All right. So, why is there 7 different types of seventh chords? Well, a little background. I studied jazz theory at the San Diego Community College District and San Diego State University. I also had the opportunity of attending a Jamie Aebersold clinic when I was a teenager. And there's a few different concepts to bear in mind when we establish these different types of chords. One of the basic concepts is that they call it harmony built in thirds. And what this means is that if you take a root note, in the situations examples we use D, and you were to write on a piece of music paper the note D, and you were to stack notes on top of it, built up 1/3 apart from each other, that's a seventh chord when there's 4 notes. And the third is the distance between each of the 4 notes. So for a major seventh chord, the distance from the root up to what's called the major third is a major third interval. Then the distance from the major third to the perfect fifth is a minor third interval. And then from the perfect fifth up to the major seventh is another major third interval. So you can think of a major seventh chord as 3 intervals: a major, a minor, and then a major. And all the seventh chords that I covered in the first video, and I'm going to continue to talk about in this video, they are constructed exclusively of thirds with 4 notes that are stacked on top of each other if you were to write it on a piece of manuscript paper from low to high, starting with the root on the bottom. Since you're working with just two different intervals, the major third and a minor third, the resulting thing is binary, and you have 8 different combinations. And those 8 different combinations, which I covered in the video in the same order, was dominant seventh, major seventh, minor seventh flat 5, which is also called half diminished, fully diminished, major 7 sharp 5, and minor major seventh. And the 8th one would have been the Augmented Triad, which is when you take 4 notes stacked on top of each other that are all a major third apart from each other, the resulting chord is a triad, and the top note is not a seventh at all. The top note becomes a root again, and you end up with a major third, and another major third on top of each other is the augmented one. So that's why that's sort of the 8th seventh chord that isn't a seventh chord, that is what would be constructed of 4 notes stacked on top of each other in major thirds. The Augmented Triad is a lot like the diminished seventh chord, which is sometimes referred to as fully diminished seventh. And that's when you take the 4 notes and they're sort of stacked on top of each other with nothing but minor third intervals. And you wind up with a root on the bottom, then the minor third, and then a diminished fifth, and then a double flatted seventh. So we have a diminished seventh up on top. And that is the diminished seventh chord as a result of those stacked up with all minor third intervals. So okay, augmented is when you make augmented triad is all major third intervals. Diminished seventh is all minor third intervals. Major seventh is major, minor, major. Minor seventh is the opposite. It's a minor third, then a major third in the middle, and then a minor third on top. Dominant seventh, you wind up with a major third on the bottom, and then a minor third on top of that, and then a minor third on top of that. Let's see, what else? Minor 7 flat 5, the half diminished. It's almost like a fully diminished chord, but instead of it being 3 intervals of minor thirds on top of each other, you wind up with 2 minor thirds and a major third on top of that, right? And that's minor 7 flat 5. So it's minor, minor, major. Right? Keep in mind, when I talk about thirds, I'm talking about the distance between 2 notes, which is referred to as the interval. If you don't know already, might be a little advanced for you. Hopefully you have enough background to understand what the heck I'm talking about. All right, so, minor major 7, I'm just looking at my notes over here. Minor major 7 is a minor third and 2 major thirds on top of that. And major 7 sharp 5 is 2 major thirds with a minor third up on top. So those are the different types of seventh chords, how they're constructed. You can alter dominant chords and do different things to them, like sharpening and flattening the fifth. That's a separate topic. That's a separate category called altered dominance. When you do that, you wind up with intervals that are not all just thirds. You wind up with things like fourths and other intervals involved. So, but those are the basic types of seventh chords. Here's some music using seventh chords. D major 7, D minor 7, D major 7, D minor 7, fully diminished seventh, D, D, A flat, C flat, right, not B, F, dominant seventh, half diminished seventh, major 7 sharp 5, minor with a major 7, so those are the same chords I played before, but instead of playing them in the first position, I just did them all right here up at fifth position. And they were all the exact same notes that I played before over in the previous explanation. So hopefully this gets you started in understanding the different types of seventh chords. Key things to take away from this: there's 7 different kinds. They're built of notes stacked on top of each other in the intervals of third between each note. And since there's 2 types of third, a major third and a minor third that we're working with, those are the components, the result is 8 different combinations. And the 8th one is just an augmented triad again, because you can't stack that many major thirds on each other without going back to the root again. Hopefully that's helpful to get you started on dominant sevenths versus all the other types of seventh chords. Yeah, and if you like this video or if you want to learn more, put some comments below. If I missed something, let me know. I didn't cover all the different types of altered dominant chords. I didn't cover dominant 7th sus4 or any of the other altered dominants. So, and these chords can also be extended, and I'll talk about that in another video. Maybe that's what our next video will be. I'll do some extensions of the chords, which is taking the basic 7th chord and adding some extra notes on top of that for flavor. That's where you get 9ths and 13ths and things like that. All right. Thank you again.